My name is Michael Day. I'm the state representative for Winchester and Stoneham, and I want to welcome you to the inaugural show of A Day in the House, which is going to be a monthly talk show, for lack of a better term, about issues facing our community, where I'm going to have a chance to spotlight community leaders, like my two guests that are here today. I want to thank WinCam for the opportunity to bring these folks to you on a monthly basis. And today's show, for the inaugural show, I wanted to talk about diversity. Diversity in our town, diversity in our community, the value of it, and how we can do a better job with it. So with that, I want to introduce my guests, Jennifer Zhang and Abba Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jennifer is the head of the Winchester School of Chinese Culture, and I just want to read a little bit about that. In 2004, a group of parents in Winchester decided to organize a school of Chinese culture for children of every background. Their vision was to create a school that students looked forward to attending every week, which is a challenge, one where they could learn practical communication skills and develop a lifelong appreciation for the language and traditional culture of China. Jennifer is one of the founders of the Winchester School of Chinese Culture, which is now in its 12th year and currently going as strong as ever, thanks to your work.
Thank you.
Jennifer served for many years as the school's principal and currently works as the director of outreach, overseeing community involvement. She's been volunteering for the Winchester community for over a decade. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And Abba Taylor. Abba is the executive director of the Winchester Multicultural Network. Prior to joining the Multicultural Network, Abba was the deputy director of the Estrella Foundation of Justice and has been involved in social justice work for over 15 years, supporting immigrants, people affected by HIV/AIDS, LGBTQI advocacy, women's rights, and racial and economic justice movements. Having worked for the UN, African Services Committee, Lambda Legal, Liberty Hill Foundation, ACT UP, and a host of other civil rights, social justice, and cultural organizations committed to uplifting myriad communities, Abba has promoted anti-violence and anti-bias strategies in education, facilitated numerous cultural competency and civil rights trainings, used media and cultural work to shift public perceptions, and created and managed programs to create greater opportunities for some of society's most marginalized people. How'd I do?
Pretty good.
Right. Do better next time. Welcome both.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you
really
very much.
Appreciate you coming on with me today. And as I said at the beginning, I really want to just use this as a forum to talk about diversity and inclusion here in Winchester and beyond. What we're doing, how can we do things better, and really where we are. But let me first start, Jennifer, with you to just tell the viewers at home a little bit more about the Winchester School for Chinese Culture.
Sure.
When did it start? What kind of activities do you engage in there, and how it's going?
Yes. We started in 2004. There is a trend of more and more Chinese family moving to Winchester, and it's hard to bring the kids to a Chinese school in Newton, which the parents usually do before that, a long way. So we decided to have our own Chinese school locally. Our initial registration was only 30 kids. So the town is very supportive, and we rent a classroom, just a few classrooms in Morocco at the beginning.
Yep.
And now, we've grown to 400 students, and we rent
fantastic.
the entire Lynch School.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
every
great.
single classroom.
Wow.
I've had the opportunity to go visit, and it really is a wonderful school you've been putting together and continue to grow. When is it? It's on Sundays, right?
It's Sunday from 9:30 to 1 o'clock. So 9:30 to 11, that's the language class. And every student will sit in the class and properly, their grades from 3-year-old preschool all the way to high school grades. And then after that, after 11 o'clock, that's the enrichment class. So we have Chinese dance, we have gymnastics, we have chess, we have Olympic math, anything you like, we have a lot of things, painting.
Olympic math.
Olympic math, yes.
Doing too well on that one.
Well, I would do that.
So how do the viewers find out more about well, let me ask you first of all, do you have to be of Chinese descent to attend?
No, you don't. We have lots of kids from different backgrounds. Of course, we have Chinese children who born here to Chinese family. We also have bilingual families, like one parent speaks Chinese, one does not. And we have adopted families, children from China, but parents don't speak any Chinese. And we also have just straight American families that they want to send their kids to learn Chinese.
That's fantastic. And I apologize for the clicking. I've been battling a little bit of a cold, so I'm trying not to cough up too much. We'll get the cough drop going.
Oh.
How can the viewers learn more about the school?
They can go on our website at www.wscc-ma.org, or they can just drop in, come to Lynch School Sunday morning at 9:30, and they can sit in a class if their children wanted to learn Chinese, sit in a class for free, and feel how you like the class, and then register.
That's fantastic. And thank you for bringing that to Winchester. I think it only adds to, again, the diversity we have here in town.
Thank you.
I know that the Chinese community is fast growing in Winchester.
Yes.
So I know that the school is a huge resource for that community, but also for the rest of us.
Not only we have the Sunday program, we also have the after-school program. You know, we operate every day. We have two sites. One is at the Unitarian Church, across the street from Lincoln School, and the other one is the Congregational Church, First Congregational Church.
That's great.
The big white church in the center of the
Sure.
town.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, right near the common.
Yes.
That's great. Abba, can you give us a little bit of background on the Multicultural Society and the purpose and what you
Sure.
guys have been up to?
Sure. So the Multicultural Network was started in 1991, technically. Sandy Thompson, a Winchester resident, went to training by an organization called Visions, Inc. It's an organization in Boston that focuses on diversity and inclusion and how to sort of build more equitable environments. So Sandy went to this training and was really inspired by what she learned, not only about herself, but how to build community and address diverse issues. And so she brought that back into her own community of Winchester, and she got a group of folks to start the network. And now it's grown into a nonprofit organization with a board of 20. We have 20 people currently on our board. We have 4 staff members, including myself. We have a great roster of community advisors, people who we engage with on different issues. We have a group of volunteers, and then I take the term network, the word network in our name very literally. And so I consider basically anyone who's part of Winchester part of the network, right? So community, businesses, organizations, individuals who live and work here. I see them as our constituents, as either potential partners or, current partners. So we really do like to think about, building inclusive community, which is what we aim to do. And we do that through looking at promoting, sort of the understanding and recognition and appreciation of diversity. We also confront intolerance. That's one of our 3-pointed missions. And then we advocate for, social justice issues. We have lots of public programs that we do. Like I said, we do advocacy around different issues, and we confront intolerance. When there's incidences of discrimination or bias, we'll help to challenge those or mediate those situations. So
You get a lot of programming.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it all the time, which is great.
Yes.
Can you give us a little sample of what's going on and what's coming up?
Right now, if you go to our website, we have been honoring a select number of women as part of Women's History. March is Women's History Month, and so we decided that we wanted to recognize some local champions. It was really hard because there are so many amazing women in this town doing amazing work, but this is our first year doing it, so we'll look forward to kind of continuing the
Building on that,
celebration
sure.
next year. But we've profiled 5 women who've created organizations, founded, created businesses or organizations, entrepreneurs that really build community, build bridges. You're going to be on our list. So we have that. We're featuring them. We've interviewed them, asked them kind of what their inspiration was, and there's that feature on our website. Next month is Autism Awareness Month. So we're partnering with the Disability Access Commission and the BRIO nonprofit arts organization. And we have the Light It Up Blue event that's going to be down at the town common.
Right.
We're going to light the whole place up blue. People are going to wear blue. We'll have giveaways for young folks. We'll
And
have
that's for
speakers.
Autism Awareness.
Yes, that's for Autism Awareness Month. And we'll be doing that. We also have created a little blue book. I'm calling it a blue book, but it's going to feature local businesses that will be supporting, this month-long activities. And, they'll have like blue ice cream at Scoopalooza, blue donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, so we're getting local businesses as well kind of engaged in spreading awareness about autism.
Great.
And yeah, we're focusing on class issues this year, so that's really big, and it's like a multi-tiered approach to that, and we're talking with different people in the community when we really...
How do we find out more?
Our website.
There we go.
Yeah. Our website is www.mcn.org, and we've got a lot of stuff going on, so I really recommend people go check it out.
That's great. So when I was growing up, talking about networking and inclusion and everything, it felt to me that everyone around me was either Irish or Italian, and either way you were Catholic. And it wasn't until I really kind of got out of junior high and into high school that I realized it was a broader world, because that networking wasn't happening back in the 70s, in the 80s, the early 80s. And so talk to us about, or not talk to us, let's have a discussion about the value of inclusion and diversity. Why not stay in our little pods of, Little Italy and Chinatown and things like that?
Because Winchester is our home, and our home include all these different people. So, for instance, when we start the Chinese school, we don't know how to do it, and then the first people on the list, we Googled it, and we found that the Winchester has a multicultural network, and we went to Sandy. And she kind of guided us, who do you need to talk to? You need to rent classrooms, so you need to go talk to the town school department. She just guided us, and that's so beautiful that we have a resource like the culture network there that we can go to, so we can have this Chinese school.
I think there's been a lot of research that diversity is really important for businesses and for educational spaces, right? They talk about how having a diverse workforce actually increases productivity, or having diversity at an educational space helps students grow and matures them and prepares them for the real world. So I think in the same way with a community, the more diversity you have, the more opportunities you have for people to engage. And to your point though, Mike, there may be towns or spaces where you have different people, right? But the inclusion part is really important, and it's, you don't want to have kind of what we call micro segregation, where even though you have all these different people, they're not actually interacting with each other. So we really work to build and bridge different communities within a town, and show how that actually strengthens both the civic life and the cultural life of a town, and the people, the residents, and the people who work in it, how they actually really benefit from that, in terms of being able to navigate not only their own spaces, but the real world, which is very diverse and multicultural.
Yeah, I'll say the, how richer my life became, and these aren't just platitudes, how richer my life became when I got more exposure to different cultures, and certainly coming down to the Chinese School of Culture and kind of immersing myself in that, just gives me a better appreciation of what's going on, and gets rid of what I always call the other, right?
Yes,
and when you can say that person is different, I don't want to deal with them, they're other, they're just separate from me, it creates walls,
right.
Both figurative and literal walls. So I applaud the work that you're both doing for our community, and I know we've got a lot more to do. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit, is what is our town doing well as far as diversity and inclusion goes, and what can we do better?
I think our town is very supportive for diversity. They pay great attention to our school and invited us to different programs, network, and you and Jason and the selectmen, school committee members all come to our school and talk about the issues, supporting the high school rebuild. It's just so inclusive, make us feel like we're very welcomed and feel very comfortable in the town. I think that we need to do more to outreach and participate more in the town. Yeah.
I do think I'm not from Winchester, and I'm just always floored at how active people are, how much people are really working at building inclusive community. So I applaud that every day, right? And I always think we can be doing more, right? I joke that, our ultimate goal is to put ourselves out of business because
Right.
there will be no need for us because everyone will be, sort of collaborating together all the time. So there's always opportunities to, increase. And again, I think sometimes talking about really hard issues, people want to shy away from that. Like people want to step outside of their comfort zone when you're talking about privilege or racism or classism, things that are not always as easy and as fun. We try to incorporate lots of entertainment and fun things
Sure.
into our programming, but sometimes having those hard conversations that really wake people up are necessary, right? And so I think one challenge for us is to figure out how to engage people in having those challenging conversations that, even though they can, be difficult, they really do yield positive results, and people, again, can understand someone outside of their own framework or, reality or experience.
Yeah, and I want to echo your point that when you get a new group into a community, unless that group gets active, unless that group makes their voice heard, it's easier to marginalize them and to ignore, right? And so I applaud what you've said and hope that it continues, that the Chinese community, that other communities in Winchester really assert themselves and make their voices heard. Politically, especially, when I hear from constituents repeatedly, you pay attention. If I get an email on a subject from 50 constituents, I look into that subject. If I don't hear about a subject, there's so many things flying around that it'll fall by the wayside. And so I really echo your sentiments that the community really get more involved.
We used to be very feel comfortable just, to stay within our own group.
Yeah.
Have our own Chinese New Year celebration, learning language. But then issues start happening, affect us, like the redistrict, the Eversource.
So the redistrict, you're talking about the elementary school redistricting?
Yes.
And that was a few years ago.
That was a few years ago, right? So lots of families, Chinese very affected, and they started to learn that, you need to speak out for whatever concerns you. If you don't say anything, no one's going to hear you.
Right.
So that's how it got us stepped out, involved. And
I
now
think
we're very involved.
I think it's also important, to your point that civic groups need to speak up so you can hear what they have to say. I think it's important that partnerships be developed, right? Like, even though I'm not Chinese, I should care about what's happening and affecting the Chinese community, right? So it's a two-way street of not just particular groups like stepping up and making their voices heard, but having, the community around them also support them and say, this is an important issue, right? Even if I don't identify with this particular group in this way, like anything that impacts one part of the community impacts all of the community. So it is, worth just emphasizing the collaborative and the allyship that necessitates, I think, like civic engagement for your constituents especially.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned the Eversource piece. Obviously, there's a proposal for an electrical transmission line to come in through from Wakefield across Stoneham into Winchester, and then connect with the substation in Woburn, and go back through Winchester up to Medford, and all the way up through Everett eventually. We had a few public meetings recently on this over at the McCall Middle School, and one of the issues that I heard, one of the many issues. I mean, we've been trying to deal with this proposal for a while now, since before I even got into office. But one of the issues that I heard later on in the process, which surprised me, was the failure of Eversource to reach out to different communities who may have not English as their first language. Could you talk to us a little bit about the I think, proper outrage that I heard anyway from the Chinese community?
Parents are very upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the first time I see the Chinese community actually gather so strongly that they go to different meetings, almost every meetings, and the parents, not every parents can go, so they share in our chat group. So even though we don't go to those meetings, and we know everything about it, and we pick up the lawn sign, we sign petitions. We have petitions at school that every parent can sign. So it's just such a turning point. I feel like, turn a bad thing into a good thing, that it makes us community even come together and speak out even more and participate. Now, we we encourage each other in the chat group to vote. Go register. The town vote is coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel very glad.
That's great.
Happy.
Let me turn, since we're talking about voting now, to the national stage a little bit. We've heard, and this is a year like I've never seen before, certainly with some of the candidates, but also with some of the rhetoric that's been thrown around there. We're hearing certain candidates talk about building a wall, and that's kind of, they throw out these giant, I'm going to build the greatest wall, and it's the best wall ever, and it's a wall, right? So it's necessarily, by definition, divisive. We're talking about increasing surveillance of certain ethnic groups. What does that do? And I'll turn to you on this. What does that do as far as, I think I know your answer, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's been really, disturbing. Yeah, right. What's so interesting is like there has the discussion, the public discourse around immigration is nothing new, right? When the Irish came, there was pushback. When the Jews came, for refuge, there was pushback. There was like the Chinese Exclusion Act. There's been a history of contention against immigration in this country, which is so ironic because we are all immigrants, or descendants of immigrants, with the exception of the Native Americans, right? So to me, it just does such a disservice to the public, and to educating the public about the issues, the context in which these migrations and immigrations are happening. Instead of talking about what's happening on the other side of the wall, you talk about a wall, right? And like, what are people learning from that, and how do they understand, why people are coming to this country either now or, may or may not have the same reasons they did a couple generations ago, and really being able to have kind of more informed conversations about immigration reform, and the impact of having open borders, which is something that this country was basically established on. So to me, it's unfortunate, of course, the political sphere and the presidential campaigns as an opportunity to talk about important issues, but it's done in such an irresponsible way that people aren't really learning or being able to really think critically about these real serious issues. So, yeah. And
how's the discussion been at the Chinese school among first generation immigrants?
Well, we don't really talk a lot about that yet, but I feel like as immigrants, this country is so great that they create lots of different opportunities for people who wanted to come to build American dream, and you can come here and stay here, but it has to obey the law, I think,
Sure.
because this is our home, we came here. And so there's lots of different channels that you can come here legally and obey the law. And I believe that, I don't want to talk about, the politicians and what they do and what their slogan is, but just for us, our immigrants, what can we become a contributor to the country, an asset instead of burden.
Yeah.
Yep. So for us, I wanted to focus on ourselves, how to be a better citizen, not to causing any disturbancy. So that's my taking.
Yeah. I think most immigrants feel that way,
Yeah.
I mean, I come from a family of immigrants, my closest friends, it is this country, right? And I think most people in this country, of course you've always got different people with different agendas, but most people just want to make a good life for themselves and their kids, and I think that's really what should be the focal point of all of these discussions.
I want to thank Jennifer and Abba very much for appearing today with me. Applaud you again for the work you're doing for our community, and hopefully that we can continue to work together.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Us on your
Absolutely.
inaugural show.
Thanks. And I want to close with a few thoughts of my own as well on this issue. Mark Takano's parents and grandparents were held against their will in internment camps during World War II simply because they were of Japanese descent. Mr. Takano is currently a second-term United States congressman who now represents the area around Riverside, California. And he recently took to the floor of the United States Congress to discuss his parents' imprisonment by noting that in that moment, no one was willing to speak up for them. Congressman Takano commented on the recent bombings in Belgium by stating, responding to Brussels by advocating for patrols of Muslim neighborhoods or suggesting that we torture our enemies is not only counterproductive, it violates the moral code that separates us from our enemies. It is my duty, it is every American's duty, to reject discrimination and uphold our values. I applaud Congressman Takano for his words, but I'm also disappointed that he had to share them in this day and age. He did so, of course, in response to the words of certain candidates for President of the United States who answered the tragic and abhorrent bombings in Brussels by saying, among other things, we need to empower law enforcement to patrol and secure Muslim neighborhoods before they become radicalized. Let's for a moment leave aside the fact that we have no idea how would we decide what would constitute a Muslim neighborhood in America. Let's leave aside the fact that this proposal calls for pure racial profiling, a tactic that the Supreme Court unanimously declared unconstitutional back in 1996. Let's even leave aside the fact that the program this candidate espoused, heightened law enforcement surveillance of Muslims, was disbanded after 6 years of zero success in turning up any intelligence or any criminal convictions or even an arrest in New York City, where it was implemented. Instead, I want to focus for a moment on the fact that this proposal, as ludicrous as it is, goes against everything that makes this country so special. The greatest generation of Americans rallied and sacrificed to defeat the evil incarnate that were the Axis powers in World War II. Our enemies then were not the German people or the Japanese people, but their leaders who espoused hatred and ethnic superiority and called for the end of democratic countries in the name of a nationalistic autocracy. Today we face Islamic extremists spawned from a self-declared Islamic State called ISIS, who call for the elimination of democracy in the name of a nationalistic theocracy. Just as my grandparents were not enemies of the German and Italian and Japanese people, we are not enemies of the people of the Muslim faith. There are dangerous and hateful people in this world, no doubt about it. But the way to defeat these people is not to target others simply because they may nominally share a religious identity or ethnic or national affiliation. Our national cemeteries are full of heroes who dedicated and often gave their lives so that we could continue to uphold and promote the values that make this country so great. Those cemeteries are marked not just with American flags, but many of them also bear Christian crosses, Jewish stars of David, and Muslim crescent moons. It is this diversity that makes our country so great. It is this diversity that we must celebrate and promote so that nobody's grandchild will echo Congressman Takano's words that no one was willing to speak up for them. Words have consequences, and we must reject words that call for discrimination in all forms. The angry rhetoric that we've been hearing on the campaign trail has, not surprisingly, turned to actual violence at some campaign events. What we used to describe as crude behavior has become sensationalized and even celebrated by the media. This is wrong. And it is up to each and every one of us to stand up and make it clear that hate has no place in our country, that discrimination, though a shameful part of our past, has no role in our future. I thank you for tuning in to this episode of A Day in the House, and I welcome you to share your thoughts with me on the episode, what I can do better going forward. I also want to take a moment to thank WinCam, particularly for allowing me this forum, and in particular our technical crew today, Tyler Graham, Melody Wing, Suzette Ferdinand, Dave Gauthier, and Anthony Gameri. Thanks very much.